Can you imagine? A black woman was turned into a maid in her husband's house just because her racist in-laws saw her race as justification to strip away her rightful position as the lady of the house. They called her derogatory names like girl instead of treating her as Michael's wife, made her work from dawn to dusk, scrubbing floors, polishing chandeliers, cooking meals she couldn't eat. But what she discovers hidden in her silver locket will expose a devastating secret that transforms her from servant to owner and destroys the very people who thought they could break her spirit forever. If you love interesting stories like this that expose the truth, please give this video a thumbs up and tell us in the comment section where in the world you are watching this video, and also do well to smash that subscribe button. You're nothing but trouble, Keisha. Margaret's voice cut through the grand halls of Willowbrook Estate like a knife. You don't belong here. Keisha Williams, a beautiful black woman with kind eyes, had walked into her new home with dreams of happiness. Instead, she found herself treated like a servant. While her husband was away, she held onto a silver locket, their only hope in this cold, cruel world. Her wicked in-laws thought they could break her spirit. They believed she would disappear into the shadows of their fancy mansion, but they were wrong. A shocking truth was about to change everything and give Keisha the power she deserved. Hey friends, hit that subscribe button and tell us where you're listening from. Stay until the end. This story's twist will blow your mind. The sun was setting over Willowbrook Estate. Golden light spread across the rose gardens and ivy-covered walls, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper secrets. Keisha Williams stood at the iron gates, her heart pounding with hope and fear. She was 25 years old, with smooth, dark skin that glowed in the evening light. Her braided hair was tucked under a cream-colored scarf, and her brown eyes sparkled with dreams. She wore a simple white dress that touched her ankles, modest but elegant, showing her quiet strength. In her hand was a silver locket, a gift from her new husband, Michael Thompson. Inside was a hidden note that read, "My heart is yours, Keisha. I'll return." Just days ago, in a small church covered with wildflowers, Keisha had married Michael. He was 30 years old, the only heir to the Thompson fortune. He had warm brown eyes and broad shoulders that showed his privileged upbringing, but his heart saw past all barrières, class, everything. Their love had grown in secret, nurtured during stolen moments by the river, away from judging eyes. "You're my home, Keisha," he had whispered during their wedding vows, his voice steady as he placed the locket around her neck. Willowbrook Estate stood before her like a giant castle. Its tall arches and stained glass windows were both beautiful and frightening. The mansion stretched across acres of green lawns, a monument to the Thompson family's wealth and power. Michael squeezed her hand. "This is our home now," he said with a boyish smile. "Mother will come around. Just give her time." Margaret Thompson, Michael's mother, waited for them in the grand entrance hall. Her silver hair was pulled back tight, and her pale skin looked almost ghostly against her black dress. Her blue eyes, cold as winter, swept over Keisha, focusing on her dark hands holding the locket. "So this is the bride?" Margaret said, her voice smooth but sharp like a blade wrapped in silk. Keisha curtsied, her throat tight. "It's an honor, Mrs. Thompson." Margaret's lips twitched not quite a smile. "We'll see how you do, child." Michael's cousins, Rebecca and David, stood beside Margaret. Rebecca was in her late 20s with golden curls and a fake sweet smile. She looked at Keisha's dress like it was made of rags. "How interesting," Rebecca murmured. David, thin and hawk-like, smirked. "Michael always had strange taste," he said loud enough to hurt. Keisha's cheeks burned, but she kept her head high. Michael's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, a servant announced dinner. The dining room was like a cathedral of wealth. The long oak table gleamed under candlelight, crystal glasses caught the glow, and the air smelled of roasted chicken and herbs. Keisha sat beside Michael, very aware of every stare. Margaret sat at the head of the table, commanding silence. "Michael," she began, cutting her meat with precision, Your father built this estate on tradition. Marriage isn't just about love, it's about legacy. Her eyes flicked to Keisha, the word legacy heavy with meaning. Keisha's stomach churned, but she met Margaret's gaze with determination. Michael reached for her hand under the table. Keisha is my legacy, mother, he said firmly. She's my wife, and Willowbrook is her home. Margaret's fork paused. Rebecca coughed, hiding a smirk. David raised an eyebrow, amused. The tension hung thick in the air, broken only by the sound of silverware. That night, Keisha stood by a window overlooking the moonlit gardens. Michael wrapped his arms around her. They'll warm up to you, he said, though doubt clouded his voice. They don't know you like I do your heart, your strength. Keisha turned to face him. And if they don't? He kissed her forehead. Then we'll build our own world here. Just hold on. The next morning, a letter arrived with an official seal. Michael's face fell as he read it. An expedition, he explained heavily. They need me overseas for business. New trade routes, new deals. It's a year, maybe less. Keisha's heart sank, but she nodded, forcing a smile. I'll wait for you. He pulled her close. Write to me. Keep this safe. He touched the locket. It's more than it seems. By noon, Michael's carriage was rolling down the gravel path, dust swirling behind it. Keisha stood at the gates in her white dress, the locket heavy against her chest. Margaret watched from the mansion steps. Well, she said coldly as she approached, you're here now. Let's hope you prove useful. Rebecca and David whispered nearby like thorns scraping together. As Keisha stepped back into the entrance hall, the doors closed with a loud thud like a cage locking shut. Within a week of Michael's departure, Keisha's life changed completely. Margaret wasted no time reshaping her place in the household. A wife without a husband is a burden, Margaret declared coldly. You'll earn your keep. Margaret moved Keisha to the attic, a cramped, dusty space with cracked skylights and drafty beams. The air smelled of old wood and neglect. Her beautiful wedding dress was locked away, replaced by two worn-out dresses sewn gray, one faded blue. Each morning before dawn, Keisha rose, tying a worn scarf over her braids. Her soft hands grew rough and calloused as she faced the mansion's endless demands. She scrubbed oak floors until her knees ached, polished chandeliers until her arms trembled, and washed linens until her fingers were raw. In the kitchen, she prepared feasts she wasn't allowed to eat. Margaret's orders never stopped. The silver must shine, Keisha. Don't disgrace us. Rebecca delighted in finding problems. These curtains are streaked, she snapped one morning, throwing a rag at Keisha's feet. Do it again properly. David was even crueler. He threw his muddy boots at her. Clean these, girl. Don't dawdle. The word girl cut deeper than any task. At night, Keisha collapsed on her thin mattress, the attic's cold seeping into her bones. She whispered to the locket, Michael, please hurry. Margaret's cruelty was the worst, hidden behind fake politeness. At dinner, where Keisha served but never sat, Margaret would say, It's a pity Michael chose so unwisely. Willowbrook deserves better. Her pale eyes lingered on Keisha's dark skin, the judgment clear. Rebecca and David laughed, their laughter like knives twisting in Keisha's heart. She wanted to fight back, to claim her place as Michael's wife, but fear of worse treatment kept her silent. The mansion's grandeur became Keisha's prison. Portraits of fair-skinned Thompsons watched her with silent contempt. She had no friends, no letters from Michael to ease her loneliness. Margaret claimed he was too busy to write. Perhaps he's rethinking his mistake, she hinted. Keisha's heart wavered, but she clung to the locket's promise, tracing its engraving, Willowbrook is ours. One evening, the mansion buzzed with preparations for a grand party. Keisha's work doubled polishing crystal glasses, arranging flowers, roasting lamb in the sweltering kitchen. As guests arrived, their laughter filled the halls. Keisha was reduced to serving, her gray dress stark against the silks and satins around her. Rebecca, stunning in emerald green, beckoned her with a sweet smile. Wine, quickly, she ordered. As Keisha turned to leave, Rebecca accidentally spilled ink on her dress. The black stain spread like a wound. "Oh, how clumsy you are," Rebecca cried theatrically, making the guests giggle. "The help these days," one woman murmured behind her fan. "No grace at all." David joined in. "She's lucky to be here. Imagine thinking she's part of the family." The laughter swelled, threatening to drown Keisha's dignity. She slipped away to a dark corridor, leaning against the wall, breathless. Later, clearing plates from the empty ballroom, she overheard Rebecca and David by the fireplace. "She's delusional," Rebecca scoffed, "clinging to that locket like Michael cares." David chuckled. "A maid with delusions of grandeur. Pathetic." Back in the attic, Keisha sat by the cracked skylight, moonlight bathing her face. She opened the locket, tracing Michael's note with a trembling finger. "You didn't forget me," she whispered, though doubt crept in like smoke. Something stirred within Hera's quiet fire of defiance. She began small acts of rebellion, leaving a streak on Rebecca's mirror, humming softly while scrubbing floors. One evening, driven by sudden courage, she approached Margaret in the drawing room. "Why do you hate me?" she asked, standing tall despite her frayed dress. "I'm Michael's wife, not your enemy." Margaret's pen paused. "Hate you?" she said, like silk wrapped around a blade. "You're a mistake, Keisha, a stain on Willowbrook's legacy. You belong in the shadows." "Michael chose me," Keisha said, her voice rising. "I belong where he loves me." Margaret laughed like shattering glass. "Love? He's abandoned you, girl. Wake up." "I'm not your girl," Keisha said softly, turning away, her defiance sparking. That night, examining the locket closely, Keisha discovered a hidden compartment. Inside was a folded paper in Michael's handwriting. "Deed shared, my love. Your Willowbrook's heart." Her breath caught. Did this mean she owned part of the mansion? Frost-covered Willowbrook's cobblestones on the morning, everything changed. As Keisha scrubbed the courtyard, a sharp car horn pierced the air. She ran to the iron gates, straining to open them. A sleek black car appeared through the fog. A tall figure stepped out, removing his hat. "Michael," she whispered. His warm brown eyes locked onto hers, taking in her tattered dress and rough hands. "Keisha, my love," he said, his voice breaking. "What have they done to you?" She ran into his arms, sobbing against his chest. His embrace was fierce, smelling of cedar and distant lands. "You came back," she murmured. "I never left you, not in my heart." Margaret emerged from the mansion, her face draining of color. "Michael, you're early." Rebecca and David followed, their confidence crumbling. Michael's eyes blazed. "You told me she was cared for, Mother. Why is my wife dressed like a servant?" Margaret grasped for control. "We were protecting our name. She didn't belong." "She's my wife," Michael roared, his voice echoing off the stones. "Willowbrook is her home as much as mine." Keisha touched the locket. "Michael, you wrote deed shared. What does it mean?" He pulled out a folded document. "My father's will. It names you co-owner of Willowbrook, Keisha. You're not just my wife, you're its rightful mistress." The words struck like lightning. Margaret gasped, Rebecca paled, David's fists clenched. "You hid my letters," Michael continued, turning to Margaret. "Every week I wrote to Keisha. You burned them, didn't you?" Margaret's silence was damning. Keisha stood taller. "You tried to break me," she said to Margaret, "but I'm still here." Michael's gaze swept the courtyard. "You have until sunset. Pack and leave. Willowbrook is no longer yours." Margaret's lips trembled. Rebecca stammered, "Michael, you can't." "I can and I will." As dust settled over Willowbrook, Keisha stood in the grand entrance hall wearing a beautiful sapphire dress Michael had brought her. The silver locket gleamed at her chest, a testament to her triumph. The mansion, once her prison, now hummed with possibility. "It feels like a dream," she said. Michael took her hand. "It's real, Keisha. This is our home, and you're its soul." They walked through the halls where she'd once polished floors as a servant. The portraits of stern ancestors no longer judged her, they seemed to bow in respect. By the fireplace, they sat with tea, the crackling fire filling the room with warmth. "I dreamed of this," Keisha admitted, "but I feared it would never come." "I failed you by leaving," Michael said earnestly, "but I swear I'll spend my life making it right." She shook her head. "You came back. You saw me when they wouldn't." She opened the locket. "This kept me alive, your words, your love." The next morning, Keisha awoke in the master bedroom, sunlight streaming through velvet curtains. She chose an emerald green gown vibrant as her spirit. In the kitchen, they prepared breakfast together, laughing as flour dusted their hands. The simple act felt revolutionary after months of serving others. "What do you want this place to be?" Michael asked, pushing the deed toward her. Keisha traced the paper. "A home where no one feels less than, where stories like mine end in light." That evening, Keisha stood on the balcony, Willowbrook's grounds stretching before her like a blank canvas. The locket gleamed, its engraving, "Willowbrook is ours, now a lived truth." Michael joined her, his arm around her waist, sunset painting their faces in golden hope. "You've changed this place already," he said softly. "You've changed me." Willowbrook, once a monument to cruelty, was now a beacon of love, its halls ready for a legacy of grace. Stars emerged against the velvet sky, and Keisha felt her painful past lift away. The locket, her silent guardian, had led her here to a dawn where she was no longer a shadow, but a brilliant light. Willowbrook's story was hers to write. With Michael at her side, she knew it would be one of triumph, woven with the strength of a heart that refused to break. And so Keisha's journey at Willowbrook Estate ends in light a testament to strength and love. What did you feel as her story unfolded? Share your thoughts below. Your voice matters to us. Thank you for joining us on this powerful tale. If you love this story, hit subscribe and join our community for more stories that touch the soul. Until next time, keep shining your light.